I'm very angry, as I'm sure many people can understand and empathize or have compassion for. I'm very scared. I'm a husband and a father, a Christian, someone who tries really hard to think clearly, try to consider rational arguments and multiple perspectives on things, try to get into nuance. I don't do that perfectly all the time, but I really do try. And what I've seen in the past day and weeks, up to the most recent spates of violence, has been really disheartening. From a capacity to think, and to feel and to share and to engage, it really breaks my heart for what this country is now, what this society is now. I take my family to Mass every Sunday. And for the past few weeks, my head's on a swivel to the doors. I went out to my car to grab something in the middle of Mass, and there was a person sitting calmly, normally, outside of one of the doors, and my mind couldn't help but go to negative thoughts. I'm not a particularly political animal any longer. Some of you know that I have been to varying degrees in the past. Really not a big fan of any political figures, left, right, or center, anymore. I tend to try and focus more on Christian thinkers and academics. And I'm not even a particular fan of Charlie Kirk. However, the things that I've seen, and I'm not the only one saying this, obviously, this has been replete across the entire internet. Things that I've seen are so reductive and simplistic and demonic and foolish. A man was shot in the neck in front of his wife and kids. And I can't help but put myself in that position. As someone who values truth, and holds the values of Christianity in high esteem. Who attends Mass with my family every week. Who has burgeoning school-age children. These are realities that I have to sit with and think about all the time. The political environment of this pathetic, disgusting society that we live in. You've been sold a bill of goods that is the American society, such as it is in the 21st century. And there's a part of me that would have been, in the past, would have been very angry and accusatory of people who have said and posted and shared some of the things that I've seen posted and shared and said. Things like, it's the guns. It's just the guns. Which is perhaps partially true, but utterly reductive and lacking nuance and any relevant political theory behind why gun ownership is allotted as a right. I've seen people utterly detached from humanity, which is self-evident, to why that's wrong. I've seen people say, where was all this outrage when innocent children, when it happened to innocent children, or whatever the accusation is, whatever the descriptor is, when in reality, I don't know if you saw my page, replete with prayer and devastation at the carnage that ripped through a school in the archdiocese that I grew up in, that I had just returned home from the day before. We don't call these things what they are. They're terrorist attacks. They are terrorist attacks. And if you make light of them, or explain them away, or worse, support them, then you're supporting a terrorist attack. And the fact is that the outrage does come and was there. And then it fades away because life has to move on. But I think the outrage has manifested in such a way now in this occasion, not only because there were concurrent events of brutality and demonic carnage that occurred today, both with yet another act of violence at a school, but also at the targeted killing of a political figure like Charlie Kirk. I think why the outrage seems so strong is not because this is so much more outrageous than anything else, but that tragedy stacks upon itself and functions as a multiplier. The temperature as such has been elevated, and it's particular targeted events like this, which are planned. And executed with astonishing precision, let's say. They're so clearly defined as acts of political violence. Read that as terrorism. That it's much easier, perhaps, to hang that up on a wall and say that that is an avatar of rage for which we can all sort of coalesce behind. There's a part of me that used to be angry at people for their ignorance, for their poor choices of words in their posts and their lack of nuance. And I don't think I'm sad or angry. I'm very sad, but I don't think I'm angry at any particular person now. And that's because of how poisoned this society is by those who hate us. They don't hate Americans, they don't hate conservatives or Democrats or what have you, but they hate humans, and they wish to see us destroyed. One way or another. And unfortunately, take this however you will, but the perpetrator, the ideology which coalesces this this program is called liberalism. I don't mean to say what we consider liberal ideas, political values, though they're often part and parcel of the manifestation of liberalism in society. But liberalism as defined by an imposed system of disinterest between atomized moral actors. That is to say, I'm okay and you're okay. And by and large, we should just leave each other alone entirely. That is to say, what's good for you is fine, who am I to say? As long as you don't get in my way, I won't get in your way. This idea, of course, is prevalent on both the American left and the American right. I was listening to a discussion between Larry Chapp and Rodney Hauser recently, and they were discussing the idea of an integralist arrangement in that context of the Catholic Church, which is to say a society structured around the church as being sort of the integral ruler of society. They made a more broad point, which was that regardless of what setup you have, what system you have in a society, it will always be an integralism in a way. And unfortunately for us, the integral feature of our society is liberalism. The cruel hegemony of disinterest, wherein we can turn around and mock the killing of a human being, or if not mock, have a certain contempt for that human being, or perhaps even worse, to not care. Those kids deserved life. Charlie deserved life, whether you agree with him or not. He has a wife, he has children who now don't have a husband and a father. Children younger than my own. It kills me. The antidote is not entirely complex, although it is likely difficult. The antidote to this disinterest that we've cultivated in our society it's not conservatism, and I don't even think it's necessarily manifested in Catholicism, although I think many of the principles certainly find their native home there. The antidote to this hegemony of indifference is to care about people, to truly love people, even if, and perhaps especially if, they are our enemies. To check in, to bring a meal to someone. And if someone's messing up, to call them on it, to let them know. Not out of a sense of judgment, but out of the sense that you care. Care about them, care about their family, care about the society that you both share. There's this concept in Catholic thought that there's no private sin. That the sin of an individual whether it's apparent or not, is made manifest within the community itself. Whether that's in indifferentism or gossip or slander or backbiting or failing at charity. There's any number of ways in which we can impact the society that we live in without even trying, because we've turned in on ourselves. It's very important to keep in mind that we are not atomized individuals living our own separate lives, apart from everyone else, near everyone else perhaps, but separately. And your business isn't my business, and my business isn't your business. That's a lie. And it's not to say that you should be nosy and in everyone's business all the time, but we live in a society made of people that need each other. In innumerable ways. The antidote to this indifferentism, this liberalism, is to love each other. And part of that is to engage in ideas, sharing, talking, disagreeing, but reaching out across differences with love and understanding. In rhetoric, there are opposing ideas, one called straw manning, which is a fallacy, but it is proposing someone else's ideas in the worst possible way. And there's a sort of counter, informal counter to that called steel manning, which is you attempt as best as you can to understand someone else's perspective. Whether you disagree with it or not, try to present someone's thoughts and beliefs back to them accurately. Rational civil discourse, discussing important things like God, morality, mental health. These are all things that really matter. They aren't irrelevant. They aren't things we shouldn't talk about. They are not taboos. We live in society. We have duties and responsibilities to each other. Not just our families, not just our immediate neighbors, but to all of us. That involves charity. That involves keeping people safe. That involves having good thoughts about each other and shared between each other. That involves nuance, understanding, and presenting nuance. Please, I beg you, reject the lie been sold. It's ubiquitous. It's everywhere. It's been infecting our minds for, if not at least the last 10 years. In particular, the last 5. If we're honest, probably our entire lives. Listen, I love this country. I love many of the things, the ideals, the principles upon which this country is founded, but this society is fundamentally broken. It is a hyper-partisan, hyper-class, bifurcated, hyper-racialized, hyper-sexualized, hyper-consumerized society, which is, on every count, destructive, toxic, anti-human, and will lead only to our destruction. Make no mistake about it. Everything that we're doing here that is not loving each other in truth and in love, which reaches out in charity and hope, is a lie sold to you to make you docile or to make you violent, to rip you from your humanity. And either put you in a box and keep you there as a consumer, or to turn you into an animal who lashes out and hates. Be neither. If I were to give my full pitch, I would say, unite yourself to the body of Christ and his church. Barring that, enter into society with joyfulness, which is peace through good and bad times. Take responsibility for yourself, for your fellow man, and reject everything that the enemy of our human family wants us to swallow. Call your mom. Hug your kids. Bring some food to your neighbors. Go to church. Sing a song. Hold the door open for someone. Just do something that is not some rational self-interest nonsense. Or liberal isolationist crap. With immense love.